So tell me what your sign says.
Trump and Elon can right off. Fund education.
Now today, Donald Trump's signing an executive order.
Trump.
With regards to funding, in your mind, how much funding is enough?
Well, we gotta go? Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
You want to answer real quick?
Now I gotta go.
All right, thanks. Do you find problems with school choice?
Pretty much yes.
Jeff Hunt, 710 KNUS downtown for another protest. It seems like these happen almost on a daily basis in Colorado. Are we solving any real problems? No, but we're protesting because the state's full of leftist activists. So this is a teachers' protest against budget cuts. Now, what makes this one interesting is that you can't really blame Trump for these budget cuts. No. These come from the state themselves. So this is a teachers union versus Polis battle. There's supposed to be 2,000 teachers down here. This is going to be very, very interesting because there's no Republicans in control in this state. So if you don't like the budget, well, you can't blame them. But I'm guessing you're going to see a lot of anti-Tabor things because that's the solution to everyone's problems. More taxpayer dollars. If we just had more taxpayer dollars, then all of our problems would be solved. So give it up, you selfish capitalist you. So we're going to have some fun down here, see what it's all about, and a lot of people already here. Here we go. Yeah.
Well, when you look at it, I feel like you can just hear her voice in your head going, won't somebody please think of the children?
I just kind of feel like traitor is the best word to sum him up at the moment.
Do you feel betrayed by him?
Completely. As a teacher, this is my 11th year in education, and I just kind of feel like, he's going with the current movement of what seems like to be sweeping the nation. I know one of my colleagues who's been in a lot of meetings and rallies or meetings with him has said there's a term now that's called we've been JP'd, meaning that he's turncoated on us and kind of stabbed us in the back as educators.
I was just talking to a guy that feels betrayed by Polis. Is that how you feel too?
Yeah, him getting mad at teachers for taking the day off to stand up for what is right instead of questioning his choices is ridiculous.
I think he needs to look at this crowd out here. He needs to hear these voices. He needs to see the future voters in the crowd and say, hey, who do I care about right now?
Tell me what your sign says.
My sign says, don't be stupid, fun schools. Everyone has to get woke. Everyone has to do their own reading. Everyone has to do their own writing and their own math, or else we're going to be headed straight down the shitter.
So you're an educator?
Yes, I am, sir.
Tell me what your sign says.
The sign says, I find your cuts to education despicable.
And you got Daffy Duck there, right?
Yeah.
The point you're making, though, is $1.2 billion shortfall the state's facing. Maybe we've spent some money in some other areas we could look to cut, right?
You see a lot of signs out here that say prioritize education. Yeah. And I'm just trying to point out, let's prioritize it.
How are you being treated out here?
Mostly not good.
What do we want?
Funding!
When do we want it?
Now!
What
Yes!
do we want?
You gotta love when teachers do signs. It's very...
We do our best.
Now, governor and lawmakers are saying we have a $1.2 billion budget shortfall. We've got to cut. If not education, what should we cut?
I'm a government teacher, and I can tell you right now that cutting education it's not it, but we need to figure something out. And if I'm asked to make changes in my classroom and differentiate and do all these things, I think our legislators need to come together, and they also need to figure that out. That's why we vote for them. And all of this partisan back and forth is just not it. So,
well, at this point, it can't be too partisan because Republicans almost have no control in there. It's Democrats and it's the governor. If they make cuts to education, are you going to feel betrayed by Governor Polis and the Democrats?
absolutely.
And Tabor steals from students. Tell me what that's about.
So the government is using the money that should be going to education for other things. They need to take education seriously. We've already gotten money taken away from us and it's affecting our kids, it's affecting our teachers, and we deserve to have the funding for public schools.
And are you an educator out here today?
I am an educator, yes.
And now Tabor basically says whatever money is collected above the budget needs to be refunded back to the people. Do you think the government should keep that money?
I think that money should be allocated towards public schools and education instead of just going back into people's pockets.
Are you an educator?
I am. I teach first grade.
First grade, and concerned clearly about the budget cuts out here. Jared Polis is saying, look, we got to make the cuts. We got a $1.2 billion budget shortfall. If it's not schools, it's got to be somewhere else. Do you have any idea on where we should cut if it's not schools?
Unfortunately, that's not my area. I teach reading, and I love making that impact, but I don't know where that money comes from. But I just know we can't take it away from our kids and our future.
Do you guys support school choice? Jared Polis and others, Democrats in there saying we got a $1.2 billion budget shortfall. We got to make cuts to education. If not education, where should they make cuts to, you think?
Cut his salary or cut his damn job. That's about it.
I think the educators should go on strike, and that will cause a ruckus in the society that needs to be felt so that we can take the power back.
If not education, what should they cut?
That's a great question, and I think we need to look at Tabor and change our tax structure so that the people right here, we don't get that like $250 or $700 back. We can actually use the money that we have currently in our tax structure to fund the things that we need to and pay for the shortfall.
Now, Tabor just says the government can't spend more than it takes in, and then it refunds it back to the people. I mean, are you essentially saying that the government knows better than the people and what to do with the money?
Actually, I'm saying if without the government, we don't have the infrastructure that we need, such as roads, bridges, schools. And so that's a huge issue. And yes, the government needs that money, and they can do better for society.
You know, when you get teachers out here, you're going to get some creative signs. Jeff Hunt, 710K in US. Tell me what your sign says.
It says, "Holy cow, Batman, stop these jokers from robbing public education."
Now, are you an educator?
I am an educator. I am a social worker and an elementary school counselor.
If they're not cutting education, in your mind, what should they cut?
That is a great question. I don't know exactly where they should go with that, but I know that public education is not the place to do it.
I think every teacher in the whole state and the whole country, we need to strike until the end of the school year.
You said you want to have teachers strike across the country until the end of the school year?
Oh, that'd be amazing, yeah.
I mean, put a lot on parents, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we would disrupt society enough to be able to get our demands heard.
God is bad luck wind blowing at my back.
If they don't cut from education, where should they cut?
Cops. Cut from the jails. Cut from the cops.
Do you think that'll increase crime?
I don't. I think that if we can increase education and make it better when kids are younger, it will help all the way up.
So it's a lack of education that's the problem with crime.
I agree. Yes, I agree.
If not education, what should we cut?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think there's probably lots of places that we can cut funding, but in the end, I think it's an issue of Tabor and how we choose to spend money with Tabor in general.
Things have to be cut. If not education, what?
I mean, I think we need to look at what we're actually spending money on. Is it really that important to deport random people? Criminals, sure, but why don't we fund education and not all the deportation and ICE raids?
Well, then conservatives have pointed out we're spending a lot of money on the education of illegal immigrants. Maybe if we cut that, we wouldn't have to cut services to U.S. citizens. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are if we have a better educated population all the way around, it's going to make our GDP grow. We need education. It's the foundation blocks of our society. Without it, we don't get better. If we educate the mass amounts of people, great. Guess what? They're going to give back that money in the long run back to our country.
What do we want? Public school. When do we want it? Now.
This is how we teach our students what democracy looks like.
Do you feel betrayed by Jared Polis?
Very much so. I thought that he was the pro-education, pro-union candidate, and he has proven himself over and over not to be that.
You want to get rid of Tabor?
I want Tabor to be gone, gone, gone.
A vibe check on funding our schools.
You're using the language of the kids, I can tell. Also, he's got to cut $1.2 billion out of the budget. So if it doesn't come from education, where should it come from?
There's a need to cut funding out of the budget. This has been happening to schools for a long time already. We're here to show that we can't take any more cuts.
Look, we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on illegal immigration in this state. If we had mass deportations, got illegal immigrants out here, we'd have money to service American citizens. Your thoughts on that?
I want to reiterate the need for funding in our schools and that education, public education, is a right for all students, regardless of their legal status.
If not education, what should they cut, you think?
There's enough money for it to go around. An abundance mindset. There's plenty. We don't need to cut.
Here's the bottom line, and I ran into it over and over and over again. When you ask them what they should cut facing a $1.2 billion budget shortfall, they don't really have an answer. Just definitely not education, they say. And nearly all of them want Tabor gone, so there's just more money for the government, for education, and they believe that if we could just educate people better, there'll be less crime. What was also interesting was there's palpable anger towards Jared Polis, and that's going to affect his presidential run. I don't know if he's trying to moderate himself now these days, but it is not working well on that crowd there. They are not happy with Jared Polis. Don't seem to blame the Democrats at large. There's never a cut to government that should be done. And the rich need to pay more. And those are the folks educating your children. Think about that next time school choice comes up. Maybe get out of your government-run schools. All right. This is Jeff Hunt, 710 KNUS. God bless you, and yeehaw.